an important part of making it through the day, making it through life, or dare I say it, being really successful at things or a particular thing, is understanding the concept of behavioral style. What is it that makes us tick? What kind of things are we likely to do based on our behavioral style? And what you'll find if you do any reading on it, or if you just watch this little quickie video, we'll give you the very basics right here, is that there are 4 kinds of behavioral styles. There are 4 of them, and they are as follows. And they follow this really cool acronym. D stands for dominant. The next one is I, which stands for influence. The next one is S, which stands for stability. And the one after that is C, which stands for compliance. Now, dominance, influence, stability, compliance. These are the 4 major behavioral styles, and what you'll find as you go through life, if you look for it, is you'll find that everyone you meet fits into one of these big categories. So the old joke that there's 2 kinds of people in the world, well, there's 4. Well, I guess there's 2 kinds of people in the world. People who think there are 2 kinds of people, and people, no, that doesn't work either. Okay, so let's go through them one at a time, and let's first talk about what the dominant behavioral style is. A dominant person is pretty easy to peg, right? When they walk into the room, they're usually the boss. They like to be in charge. They talk more than anybody else, and so they may not be the boss necessarily, but they tend to be bossy. And my mom always used to say that there's a big difference between being bossy and being the boss. Someone who's bossy just likes being in charge. Someone who's the boss has usually been trained for it and knows how to be the boss. And sometimes those 2 people fall into the same body, but sometimes they don't. And so you can often spot a dominant person because whether or not they're the boss, they are often bossy. They're very talkative. Right? Talkative. And they're also not particularly detail-oriented, right? They're not interested particularly in the details, and they also like to make, here's another one that you'll see, they like to make quick decisions, oftentimes without really having all the information. So that's an important couple of things, and a couple of easy ways to recognize somebody who's dominant in terms of their behavior. Those are the things that you'll see them doing. An influence-oriented person is a lot more concerned with the thoughts and feelings of others. If I'm an influence-oriented person, I don't just want you to do what I'm saying, like the dominant person. What I want you to do is I want you to see the world through my eyes. I want you to feel it the way I feel it. I want you to see things my way. All right? I want you to see things my way if I'm an influence-oriented person. In a work situation, an influence-oriented person is going to be really good at following up things. Right? So an influence-oriented person is really good at follow-up, and they will, however, tend to overpromise things. They want you to see it their way. They want you to feel it the way they feel it. Another way of putting that is they want you to like them. So an influence-oriented person will sometimes have their judgment clouded by the fact that they want you to approve of them and they want you to like them. So they're good at following up because they want that, but they're also kind of good at overpromising for the same reason. They're enthusiastic and they speak from the heart, and they're not particularly logical. They're much more emotion driven or feelings driven or speaking from the heart than somebody in another category. And so that's an influence oriented person. A stability person or a steadiness person is what they sound like. They want things to be constant, right? Constant. They want things to be the same today as they were yesterday. They would not like it if they went home and the furniture in the house was rearranged. It would be disquieting. They tend to pick something and stick with it. They're personable, right? They're dependable. They're supportive. And those are some of the characteristics of somebody who is a high S, as we would call it in the biz, or a stability-oriented person. Those would be their traits. A compliance-oriented person, put quite simply, is the bookkeeper. They're data-oriented people. They're data-oriented people. They're accountants. They evaluate. They evaluate information. They are not quick to believe. They're slow to believe what you say because they want to see the information in black and white. And so when you're trying to influence, if you're an influence-oriented person up here, if you're trying to influence a compliance-oriented person, you're going to probably end up with some difficulties there because this influence-oriented person speaks from the heart and wants you to feel it the way they feel it, but the compliance-oriented person wants to see the data. They want to see the information that supports the conclusion that the influence-oriented person is supposed to have, but the influence-oriented person rarely has a conclusion. They more often have a feeling. So a compliance person, they're the buzz mauler. They're gonna stifle your enthusiasm, and you're gonna have, with compliance-oriented people, don't spend a whole lot of time trying to get ideas across. Try to get data. Try to get information that they can process, because that's what a compliance-oriented person wants to do. In the next video, what I want to do is continue this conversation. It's a big topic. I've been studying this for 10 years. Jillions of words have been written on this. It's a big topic, and it's not something that's going to fit into a quickie YouTube video. But what I'd like to do for the next one is to start to talk about this general idea here, where we take and break out the behavioral styles in this kind of a wheel, where we have D, dominance, I for influence, S for stability, and C for compliance. And then in this wheel here in the middle, what we can do is we can break up the different types of roles that exist in life, but mostly in business. And we can start to see what kinds of job responsibilities, what kinds of tasks, what kinds of things to do are most suited to the different types of behavioral styles. And knowing this about your team is super helpful and super important, but not nearly as helpful and not nearly as important as knowing it about yourself. So that's what we're going to cover in the next video.